thrilled to be here with John McKnight and Peter Block, who joined us because they answered my request to come. Because I work with amazing people and we want to really do something different in communities. And we're joined by a wide range of people. We have a calling team. Could you get your green sheet? There are green sheets out here that tells you more about us. We've come together from a number of different systems and services that work across the state on the belief that we all need to work differently and more intentionally with our communities and with our families because they're the center of our work. And we need to work more effectively. So I want to just recognize our calling team because if we couldn't have done this, then we wouldn't be here without our calling team. But we have Joanne Kelly from Early Childhood Systems Coordination. We have Sally Wolf from Balancing Restorative Justice. We have Mark Michaels from Illinois Education Association. We have Gaston Armour from Illinois Department of Human Services. Emergency Preparedness and Wellness Division. And we're missing Peter Newman, who's from the Office of the Juvenile Court, and Christine Westerlund, who couldn't be here today either from the Illinois Community Action Association. John Biswetti is here from Midwest Learning Center, and we're also missing John Ziegler, who's from the Egan Urban Center of DePaul University. But together, we called you for a different conversation. And we're thrilled that you're here. We want you to just fully participate today and think about how we can take these conversations and what we're talking about here back into our work and back into our communities. So I want to, without further ado, welcome back John and Peter. For those of you who don't know them, they're amazing visionaries. We call them legendary. But they'll introduce themselves. We're really thrilled to have them both with us today.
We're legends in our own mind. So, for some of you, this is day one. Others, it's day two. This is a project in reconstruction. So this is a reconstruction or reconstitute. Anything less than that is not worth showing up for. And so in some ways, we came here to reimagine or re-narrate what you're up to in the world and do it in the presence of others doing the same. Now, the room matters. So what we know is that how we come together has enormous impact on what difference we make in the world. And so you're always saying, you're always changing the world one room at a time. Now, yesterday we left this room in a certain state, certain connectedness, but then as soon as the night intervenes, everything's changed. Because the night is where the unconscious gets to work. No matter what yesterday was like, at some level you start over on day two, even though you know you're not quite as alone as you were on day one. But then you can see what happens in the room. You know, we're all tight over here in the room, and during the night, even the chairs have a transformational experience. And they kind of splay out over the room, and circles break up. So many times I've been in a circle, which is a symbol of transformation, a symbol of community. The circle means something. And you tell the hotel, don't touch the room. And you come back in the morning and they're all lined up like sardines. And I've even slept in front of meeting rooms. And I know nobody went in there. And the room is still lined up like sardines. So I think chairs and buildings have a mind of their own. And so you got to do something about that. So before kind of recapping the content, we need to kind of redo the room. too strung out now. This room, the way it's laid out now, means we have not yet decided to be here. We just showed up and sat down, but we have not become an army of occupation. And so it's one thing to sit in the seats, another thing to occupy it. So what I'd like to ask you to do is I'd like the people that weren't here yesterday to stand. I'm not going to embarrass you. Okay? We're not here yesterday. Because we have to find a way of welcoming them. Okay? They don't know whether they came to the right place or not. So what I'd like to do is get you on the edge to bring your chairs to the center. I'd like to form groups of 6. And I'd like you to sit with people that were not here yesterday, so we kind of integrated those two groups. So this is a vague instruction, which was one of my specialties. Yeah, you have to. So but everything on that side of the room has to come this way, otherwise we're incomplete. So you people over there, I know you're comfortable. I know you have your breakfast. I know you sit right where you want. And I want you to come and join us. You can't go on without come whole again. You can't. People can sit where they want, of course. But you don't want to collude with that. Now, if somebody said, "Dan, I'll leave you darn it, leave me alone." That's where I was. I came here to sit on the edge, and I'm going to stay here. I would say, "You're welcome." But I don't want to act like it's okay. You can't. You're trying to create a world, a neighborhood, a community of connection, relatedness, and when people on the outside, it splits us apart a little. So here's the, let me give you the headline. Pardon?
I'm just saying the people on the edges connect with other people on the edges.
Yeah, no, you have been, you have not. We're all on the edge. I'm not talking about your life. This is a group, a collection of marginals. You don't have to declare it if you want. I got that. It is very true. And that's where change, that's where transformation occurs. I got an interview a show once, and they said, "Well, don't you think that boards of directors should initiate real change in their organization?" I said, "You're out of your mind. If you're looking for transformation, would you look at a board of directors? If you want real change, would you ever look at top management? I mean, that's silly. It all comes from the margin. So the fact that you're on the margin is hopeful. So the idea is you care about something in the world. You care about youth, you care about the land, you care about food, whatever you care about. And the basic idea is that if I care about that, I have to shift my thinking as a way of relating to that. If I want the future to be distinct from the past. Now, if you want tomorrow to be a little better than yesterday, then not much is required. Most of the conversation we have now is about how to make tomorrow a little better, a little more efficient, a little integration of services. How about if we co-house services? How about if we eliminate overlap? Okay, this is business talk. This is system talk. And it's nice. It's cute. It's romantic. And it's called reform in some places, so most things called reform are a defense against anything changing. Because the ambition is too low. That's why I never show up and try to meet people's expectations, because they expect too little. Most people come to a workshop, well, I just want to take one little thing I can use tomorrow. Why are you wasting your time? I want to come change my mind. I want my life to be turned upside down. But reform is inversion. Real reform is to invert my thinking. That wherever I thought was cause, I've changed my mind. I know its effect. So, kids create parents. All right? Students create teachers. Listening creates speaking. We write a book, and you decide what that book becomes by the nature of your reading. Now, if I think that way, then there's space for something to read. So that's kind of the theme, is what would it require us to create an alternative future for the people that you care about and live their life. And the basic idea is when community gets constituted, something changes. And if I care about youth, then I have to care about community and how people come around us. And most of us, the old narrative is one of more services. The old narrative is if we had better leadership and more money, better funding, if we had better programs, if we were more evidence-based, all right? If we were more accountability-minded, this is the language, all right? It pervades everywhere. Then these children would grow up healed and less wounded and stuff like that. But we've been on that path for most of my life, all right? Which is a lot of decades. I'm not going to say it, but every time I say it, it makes me nervous. And so I know that integration of services, accountability, outcome-based, evidence-based, let's find what's working, benchmarking, all right, eliminating overlap, all are designed to reduce labor cost. So if you think that the future will be created by lower labor costs, go for it. And that's the system way, that's the business way. It's the belief in consistency, control, predictability. We're not interested in anything to take it to scale, as if large is the only thing that matters. And this is that music. Stay here, you like it. Turn it up. So in some ways, you come together and say, what's the new narrative? So that's how I've constructed our work, is to join together in an alternative or different narrative. Because how I speak creates the world. All transformation is linguistic. So you might say there's a different narrative that you come together to participate. In the alternative narrative, the way we're constructing it, there's 1,000 ways to do it. If anybody else gets a phone call on a cell phone, it's fine. Just let me answer. Hi, can't you let this person alone? They'll be free at 1 o'clock this afternoon. I only did that once and it turned out to be his boss. So the way we're saying, well, there's 3 dimensions that constitute a functional neighborhood or community. One is gift-mindedness, and this is what we do. All right, because the world is efficiency-minded. So if I care about abundant community, if I care about transformation of the world, real change in outcomes, I start looking for gifts in myself, in us, in youth, in the world, in the disabled, in the poor, in the homeless. I lose interest in them as diagnostic categories. I am not a diagnostic category, even if the diagnosis is accurate. And so somebody says, I'm homeless, and my answer is, no, you're not. You just don't have a house. I'm not housed. It's not who I am. So gift-mindedness is a whole thing we can talk more about. The other is associational life. It's peers and citizens coming together that transforms the world. It's not better leadership. It's not stronger relationship between boss and subordinate. We put so much attention on parent causing child, boss causing subordinate. You do surveys inside your systems. How do you feel about your boss? Is the dumbest question in the world. My answer is, who the hell cares how you feel about your boss? You didn't get the parents you wanted. What makes you think you're going to get the boss you want? It's a conversation with God, not with human resources. So stop asking the children how they feel about the parents, because the children are going to betray the parents anyhow. The day you grow up is the day you say, I'm not the son or daughter you had in mind. All right, so get off it. And therapy is to help you get that. You can do it slowly, a week at a time. You can get it in an instant. Spend your life, or some of you become therapists because you still can't get it. This is the way it works. So basically, you say it's citizen to citizen, neighbor to neighbor, peer to peer is the realm of transformation. And so associational life is a shorthand for summarizing that. And so your task as leaders is to bring citizens together with each other. Is have youth counseling youth, neighbors serving neighbors, employees connecting with employees. That is the realm in which something can shift. And so that's associational life. And it's invisible life in this culture. Nobody in this culture is interested in peer-to-peer conversation. All we want to know is who's in charge and how do I get to them. I've done consulting for 40 years. It's the only question I ever had when I was in business. Who's at the top and how can you get me in a meeting? Because that was an efficient way to sell services. With one sales call, I could generate a lot of income. If I was peer-to-peer, it'd take me weeks and months to make $1. So it's the commercialization of service is the cost subordinate thing. So that's association. And then the third is hospitality. The death of democracy is like-mindedness. And so I have got to figure out what to do with strangers. I have to welcome strangers. John says every community, to be a real community, is a welcoming at the edge. And so every time you gather people together, you have one intention, is to help strangers find each other. And it's hard work. Because I want to be with my own kind. I want to be with my friends. You know, and you hear the word like-minded every 10 minutes. And the whole social network is designed for like-minded people to find each other easily. The guy who started eBay, he said, I want to bring people together, like-minded people together. And so that somebody in Iowa has a teddy bear they want to sell, and a truck driver on the roads of Wyoming loves teddy bears, I want to help them find each other. And I thought, that is a purpose you can commit yourself to. And so like-mindedness is exclusionary. It's marginalizing. It means that, and we're doing that. We resegregated out of Cincinnati, you know all this stuff. So those are the three elements that build connection, community. If I care about the youth, then I have to decide to see their strengths. If I care about the youth, I have to figure out how to build a support system around them. All right? Not more services, not better this or that. And if I care about youth, I have to help them find those that they know to use. That's the word. And then we have to experience that in the process. So that's kind of and to me that's a form of the new narrative. The old narrative is about scarcity, it's about competition, all right? And so the new narrative is about abundance, it's about cooperation, it's about relatedness. And none of this is spoken in the public arena. The dominant public narrative is not about that. It's about what's wrong with it. It's the news every single night. I have been bombarded for decades. Is there something wrong with Chicago? There's something wrong with Cincinnati. And they sell the news and they throw in a little human interest late in the news. And so we have been educated and trained that there's something wrong with us. And it's invaded our institutions. So now we have performance appraisals. So once a year, you sit down with your boss and find out the nature of their disappointment. I don't mind that. I just don't want to call it a developmental experience. Okay, I just want to call it a reinstitutionalization of sovereignty. If the boss called me and said, Peter, I want to talk to you to remind you that I own you, I would say, cool. Every once in a while, I need a reminder. But I don't want to call it learning. I don't want feedback. I don't want to grow, you know, and their daughter finally quit the job because they were interested in her developmental edges. And I said, Jennifer, they just don't like you. Got it? So all of the colonial structures we have, the business structure, so you could say this is a project in rehumanizing neighborhoods and systems in the world. So that's kind of the order. So what I'd like to do before we kind of get into the more content is we have to do something about welcoming those who came today, because this is today's version of people that we need to bring into the community. So what I'd like you to do is to share in a circle with each other, whether there's a new person or not. If it's a new person, bring them up to speed. Tell them what they missed. Not so much that they missed a lot, but tell them, here's what yesterday was about, here's what I got. And then do what you need to do to welcome them into this circle. Now, if you're in a circle without a new person, have the same conversation. Because somehow reflecting on your own experience is where something happens. let's just take 10 minutes. If you're new, now if you're a new person, don't say anything about why you weren't here yesterday. Because I believe that you had something more important to do. And if we had had something more important to do, we'd have been with you. So there's nothing to apologize for. You just kind of say, you know, got it? So take 10 minutes and welcome the people in. So do it now.
So you have to be able to show
So let me interrupt you. So every small circle is this moment's version of the neighborhood, this moment's version of the community. And so the particular experience of a moment has to be aligned with the larger purpose of a life. Okay, I can't constitute a life without paying attention to the moments. Otherwise, when you're young, you're waiting for your life to begin. And so everything in youth is in anticipation and under threat. Basically, we intimidate and colonize our kids, and we call it socialization. And put me in competition with my peers. Call it motivational. As if I'm not interested in learning, I need to be motivated. You as leaders, this notion that you motivate your people is the silliest thing in the world. Who are these people? Your children? waiting for you to show up before they have to mean anything in their life. So if you're a boss, forget about motivating your subordinates. It's not going that well, and it's not going to get much better. So as soon as you get that, you just relax into it, and productivity goes up. Dissatisfaction stays high, but productivity goes up. So that's the thought. And the small group is the unit of transformation. So let me ask you, anything strike you about the conversation you just had? So when you break people into small groups, you can't leave them there too long, otherwise that becomes the universe. And it's too hard to break them up later. You need treatments, more services if you break them up too much later. So let's collect 3 people, 4 to say what struck you about the conversation you just had, just to keep some balance of power in the room. This is great. This would take weeks. Thank you. Stand up and give us your name.
My name is Chuck. I'm the new kid on the block, or at least in the circle. And one of the things that really impressed me is that Tarcisio took the time to introduce himself and then go around and introduce each person. And then he shared something about yesterday, which really struck home, is that in his culture, in Mexico, that you invite someone into their kitchen to begin to establish that relationship.
Right.
And I thought that was such a welcoming, grace-filled, and hospitable kind of way. So insist that we all go into his house.
Welcome. The kitchen table is where the action is. Would else like to, anything strike you about the conversation you just had? Elizabeth? Come up here, your book.
No. I'm Elizabeth, and I learned that yesterday you talked about that you can really only learn new things from a stranger. And so you need to be constantly reaching out for people who you don't know, and so you don't know me, so I guess I'm a stranger.
Not anymore. Anybody else?
Thank you. I was summoned to this group. My name is Kevin, and as summoned, yes, I was summoned because I was sitting over there, happy sitting over there. When we disrupted our conversation, they immediately said, "Kevin, come over here," because they wanted to integrate maleness into it. So, yeah, that was her language. Yes. So, what I found most striking was the invitation itself. And when I sat down, everyone just, when you gave the instruction to share, everyone just poured out so freely, and I knew I was in my element.
Boy. So finally I figured I came to the right place. You got past your irritation with me for breaking up your comfort zone. I'm grateful for that. You're only slightly mad at me now. Which is great. So let me say a couple things, and then we want to. So there's a reason for community. There's a reason for focusing on related.